Hello, and welcome to EURAXESS Smart Talks.
The Smart Talks podcast series is an EU-funded EURAXESS project, which provides information and assistance to researchers at any career stage.
EURAXESS supports the European research area in its ambition to create a single, borderless market for research, innovation, and technology across the EU.
We support researchers in mobility, careers within and beyond academia, innovation, and entrepreneurship.
We strive to enhance scientific collaboration between Europe and the world. Welcome to Policy and Progress, Navigating Serbia's AI Strategy with Government Insiders, Episode 3. Last episode, we learned about AI from Professor Dubravković, who taught us about the most important technical aspects of AI and not to be afraid to use it. Đorđe Mitić explained to us how AI can be used from a researcher's perspective in a startup. This episode will explore Serbia's governmental sector, the development of their AI strategy, and provide an overview of its implementation that makes use of highly qualified minds, creating a platform for talents and investors. To give the most up-to-date information, we were honored to interview the most informed people. Dr. Dubravko Ćulibrk, Director of the Institute for Artificial Intelligence Research and Development of Serbia, Vukašin Grozdić, the State Secretary of the Ministry of Science, Technological Development and Innovation of the Republic of Serbia, and Stefan Badza, Advisor in the Cabinet of the Prime Minister of Serbia.
We would like to welcome Dr. Dubravko Ćulibrk, who is full professor of Information Systems Engineering at the Department of Industrial Engineering and Management of the Faculty of Technical Science, University of Novi Sad, Serbia, and certified instructor of Nvidia Deep Learning Institute. Since March 2021, he has been dedicating most of his time and effort to developing and heading the Artificial Intelligence Research and Development Institute of Serbia. Welcome.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Happy to have you here today.
Can you give us an overview of the AI situation in Serbia and the world right now? What major progress has been made, and what is the future looking like?
Okay, so let's start, I guess, with the global sort of outlook. The right answer to this is ask GPT, right?
That's end.
So if you ask GPT what the outlook of AI is, then you have a lot of fun, especially if you're using the chat version, because it's been kind of fine-tuned to make it more fun for humans, I guess. But what I'm saying, I guess, is the fact that although these technologies have been in development for quite a bit of years, and even the GPT has been trained for the first time almost 3 years ago, and so on. Having it released as OpenAI did and kind of made available to everybody to play around with has kind of brought enormous popularity and so on. But I think it's also made a lot of people who were not really, into the AI and the whole domain realize that these technologies are kind of at the level where sometimes they can do stuff that it's hard for you to do, right? And I don't want to say they do it better, but for sure they do it faster, right, and easier, and so on. So now everybody's kind of scurrying around trying to figure out, how to regulate this, and should it be regulated, up to what point, and so on. In Serbia, I think the time is also exciting in terms of we were, I don't know, maybe the 26th or something like that country in the world that actually kind of did a strategy for the development in AI, and we don't usually normally come 26th in the world in many things, right? Sports maybe, but not science. And it's been exciting, and there's been this drive to kind of push forward and so on. And one of the, I guess, consequences is the fact that we now have an AI institute.
Artificial intelligence something that should be integrated in all the fields. Like it cannot exist like a separate something out of the field. Or am I wrong?
No. So you're absolutely right. It's what, but let's say I would say that applies to all technology. So there are technologies that tend to change a lot of the different spheres, right? And these are the general purpose ones. So let's say electricity is like that. Internet also, like there's pretty much everything you do was touched by it, right? So AI seems to be to have the capacity to do this. Not that each aspect of the technology will be applicable to everything, right? But there are different things from computer vision to natural language understanding to generating the media content and so on. So maybe generating media content not great for agriculture, computer vision, figuring out what's going on in the field from the satellite, super interesting for agriculture and things like that. But there is pretty much every segment of it can be applied to more than one thing.
So then you named it, but I would like to know more about the achievements in scientific research of machine learning and artificial intelligence.
Okay, so for us, Serbia is quite good regionally. It's not, we are trying to become sort of a global and a European center of excellence. And we are working together with a lot of colleagues from abroad to do that. So the story of Serbia in terms of artificial intelligence is sort of like our stories in sports or tennis or something like that. So we have great people who are, who had to leave Serbia to do amazing stuff, right? And what the idea with the institute is that to make it so that you don't have to leave Serbia and still achieve like the top marks. So we have guys that work for let's say DeepMind and young people that pretty much, I don't know if you know this, but whenever you search for directions on Google, right, on Google Maps, it's the matching and the route is done using an algorithm that a Serbian scientist designed and envisioned to start with. So, and then there is a lot of different other examples. But also, what we can kind of claim, we are quite entrepreneurial. So we have some amazing startups. So I would ask you to maybe look at Wonder Dynamics. You'll see, amazing things done for the film industry and so on in Serbia.
So this is kind of stuff that also researchers could find themselves in after the academia.
Oh yeah. So for us, it's not. It's kind of the other way around, European level, and I wouldn't argue maybe globally, but Europe has an issue with tax transfer. We all know this, right? For us, it was a weird situation where before we started this institute, and it will take time to actually achieve the goal, but you would get, let's say, I would get pretty much every month 1 or 2 certain requests from startups, done by our people somewhere or somebody else who wanted to capitalize on the fact that we actually have great engineers in Serbia, not great research, but great engineers. But if you want to do an AI-based startup, then you kind of need a CTO, right? Which should be somebody who has enough research experience to be able to innovate and so on. And we realized that this was sort of a bottleneck for us, right? And so the idea of the institute is not only to do research, do applied research, but also to kind of become a sort of a foundry for young CEOs, right? so this is what we want to address, and it's not the idea that we grow immensely and that we employ too many researchers. The idea is to be sort of pipeline where a young person comes in, does great research, learns a little bit about, quite a bit about IP and entrepreneurship, and go do their thing. Whether they go to Google or they decide to spin out the company, we're there to support them.
Okay, sounds great actually, but very worrying. Like for researchers who wants nothing to worry about and everything's fine, future is bright, and you have an overview of it.
It's a little bit different because we are researchers, but we are IT electrical engineers and things like that. So, but the situation in our segment, and AI falls right into that, is that you would get at least 4 times the salary or that you get in academia usually by working for a company, right?
Can you give us an overview of the AI situation in Serbia and the world right now? What major progress has been made, and what is the future looking like?
There are, two effects. One, that there was a really, really big hype. So there's a lot of startups out there right now. They're looking to sprinkle some AI on their stuff to make it more hype and more sexy, I would say, for the investors. And of course, it's like that. It seems, and every day that passes and every month that passes, this seems more certain that this will be this will bring big changes, and it already is, right, when you think about it. And so the effect is twofold. There's going to be definitely big names and giants that will capitalize on AI, and new companies that like Google replaces pretty much Yahoo, or Microsoft is still there but not so on. And if you look at it, even Microsoft is now investing heavily in OpenAI, and invested even before in GPT. But there is gonna be, I think, interesting things for me. One of the amazing things was that I have a friend who's really excited. He loves chess, right? And then for a long time, these like these like chess bots that were done this classical way, where statistics and things like that, they were just kind of boring because they would explore the strategies and so on. And now the new stuff that we are doing, which basically you teach a machine to teach itself, to play around like a kid, and figure out the strategy by themselves. It's getting some crazy new strategies out, right? So like the world champion in chess said that, oh, finally it's getting interesting. Because it was always, you do what you were told as a kid. You don't do this opening, you can never do this, you never do, and so on. The AI doesn't know that, right? So then sometimes you get solutions that are completely crazy but fun, right?
New technology sounds like fun. Everyone starts to experiment, and then come in ethical features, and we are done.
Well, I don't think we are done. It's just that we should. It is in our nature that to like use technology and abuse technology, right? It's not due to the technology, and so every technology that has a potential to be abused has to be sort of regulated. And honestly, there is maybe a thing that I usually stress that nobody noticed, right? That now with AI, because of the popular media, and we've been thinking about how AI could do this or that, and there's sort of a fear built in us, then we're kind of reevaluating things that were already there. Manipulating stuff on Facebook allows you to maybe change the ways people voted in the biggest democracies and so on. There have been some really, really bad uses of basic data science stuff that have nothing to do with AI, but we never saw that coming. Now that we are kind of re-examining AI, and it's the state of the art stuff is pretty much cannot exist without a lot of data, right? It may allow us to regulate things that should have been regulated a long time ago, but nobody really paid attention, right? Or they were left to big corps to kind of do whatever they want, right? So I think that's a discussion worth everybody's time, right? And that maybe as a society we come up better because of it. So maybe there's it's always a good time to have these kinds of discussions. Right?
Okay, so bright future awaits. Very good. Thank you very much.
Yes, yeah. Thank you for the invite.
It is a pleasure to have as an interviewee Vukašin Grozdić, the State Secretary of the Ministry of Science, Technological Development and Innovation of the Republic of Serbia. He attended undergraduate and master's studies at the Faculty of Philosophy in Belgrade and continues his education enrolling in doctoral studies where he researches the issue of managing the development of digital literacy in adults. Since 2016, he has been employed in the cabinet of the Minister of State Administration and Local Self-Government, and since 2017, he has been engaged as an advisor to the Prime Minister of the Republic of Serbia on the implementation of projects in the field of digitization, education, science, social entrepreneurship, the labor market, and other areas of interest to the President. Governments. Since 2022, he has been the State Secretary in the Ministry of Science, Technological Development and Innovation. Hello, welcome, and thank you very much for your time.
Hello, it's great to be with you today and to speak about this important topic for all of us.
Vukašin, for our first question, can you give us an overview of Serbia's technology and innovation field?
Well, in brief, for those who are not familiar with the Serbian innovation and science ecosystem, we have a long tradition in science and basic science, especially. So we have in our country more than 40 institutes, which are the specialized scientific institutes working in different topics from STEM to humanities. And most of them were developed during the 50s, then some of them during the 70s, and then 80s, 90s, beginning of 2000, we had some pause. And now, in the last 8 years, we established 3 new institutes in Serbia. One of them is Institute for IT in Kragujevac, one city and university town in Serbia. Also, we established a Biosense Institute. I would like to speak about that institute later more because Biosense Institute is the only one center of excellence which won the award on the Horizon 2020 and is the only one out of the EU which is specialized in agri-tech and basically digitalization of agriculture and precise agriculture as well as food security. And the last one, and the newest, is Institute for Artificial Intelligence. We celebrated a few weeks their second birthday. So that's one side. And some of those institutes are part of the universities, some are not. We have 6 universities in the country in all major cities. We have more than 12,000 researchers who are being financed by the ministry, around 4,500 of them working at the institutes. The others are working at the faculties on the university, and we have 6,000 more researchers who are not financed by the Ministry of Science, but they're working as a teacher. Also, where we are based in Europe, we are also part of the Horizon program.
For scientists and researchers, it is always important to understand what is the strategy. So please, could you tell us what is the Serbia's national artificial intelligence strategy?
When we speak about strategy in this field, we have one broader strategy. This is like for scientific and technological development of the whole country. When we see the data in ICT, we had only about and around 300 million euros of ICT export. But Only in the beginning of the 3 months this year, we surpassed that by multiple times. So we expect by the end of this year to surpass 4 billion euros of export in ICT. And this is the fastest growing sector export in Serbia, back to back annually, more than 40% growth. So we are now pushing this. And that's why we introduced the strategy for artificial intelligence 3 years ago, with the idea to support this specific technology. And it was like a very wide process, very inclusive process. We had people from academia, from business sector, from government, from NGO sector, and that strategy set 5 objectives. One is the development of education geared to the needs of modern society and economy, conditioned by the advancement of artificial intelligence. Second is development of science and innovation in the field of artificial intelligence and its implementation. Then development of the economy based on artificial intelligence, improvement of assumptions for the development of artificial intelligence in public sector services through the implementation of artificial intelligence, and ethical and safe application of artificial intelligence. When we go in details, we will see that we introduce a new subjects in the school. We introduced new topics in the school. We also established an AI institute, which was part of one of these objectives.
That sounds like a very simultaneously broad strategy and also very specifically adapting to the changing landscape. I'm curious if you can expand a little bit on how this relates to how artificial intelligence is used in Serbia. If you could tell us how companies or researchers are using AI and how Serbia is helping and supporting entrepreneurs and researchers in this field.
Well, as I said, like, this is a newly established strategy, and one of the pillars of that is to support research through National Science Fund. And 2 years ago, a National Science Fund opened a call, which was specific call for AI. And then there was like 10 projects that were selected. Every project is around 200,000 euros. So the whole program was around 2 million euros, which had like specific intention to develop the artificial intelligence research. Besides that, we have an institute which we finance as a government, and they also can apply for projects. And we have this Bioscience Institute, which works mostly in the agri-tech sector. There's another pillar more in Serbia. It's called the Innovation Fund, and that's the institution responsible for opening and calls and doing the support for the SMEs and also startups. They didn't have like the specific call for IT, but they have open call for mini matching grants, beginning of the career, and like the startup programs, and like few of those programs are very suitable for AI companies because it's wide, as I mentioned. But now, as the AI is hot topic and everybody is kind of thinking that it will change a lot of things in the society, they're very welcome to apply and to get the funds from the Innovation Fund.
Can you expand a little bit on what you mentioned of some researchers or entrepreneurs who have received grants through your offices and through your projects in the field of AI?
Well, we have this call from Science Fund. As I mentioned, there was like 10 projects that were awarded. I could not speak that much in details about the level of their achievement because those projects are now still running, so we will have the data, I hope, in few months when they finish their research, and then we will understand, like, was it a good option to do it? Was it a good call or not? Should we change something?
Well, that's a great transition to our next question, which is talking about the future. So in addition to hearing about the successes of the projects that you have sponsored, how do you see the future of AI and entrepreneurship, specifically in Serbia, but also in the greater EU community and in the world?
We think that the public sector can play a role in this, and we have a big strategy on open data, and we are trying our best to structure the data that government owns and our government entities, and to open those data to startups and to research institutions so they can do the research. What are we doing right now is with the Ministry of Health, and we are trying to get the mRNA and also other scans that will be analyzed with AI, and that we can then find some rare diseases that are in our community, and that will help our people, and our physicians to do their work. That was very important before, but right now after the COVID, there is more and more people who are now waiting for the services. We cannot in this time have like everybody in a week scanned and give them the right health support. So we are finding a way that we need to introduce more technology which will help physicians and other occupations in the health sector to do it faster and more accurately.
So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I'm very inspired by seeing how Serbia is using all of these technologies and this new science to solve the problems at home that its citizens are facing. I think that's something really amazing that you highlighted today. So thank you.
Thank you very much for having me here and for the time that I can share what we are doing right now, and hope to be your guest again.
Today, we are very excited to welcome Stefan Badje, who is an advisor in the cabinet of the Prime Minister of Serbia and the creator of Serbian AI strategy. He graduated from the University of Belgrade and finished master's studies in physics at the University of Cambridge. Welcome, Stefan.
Thank you for having me, Darja.
Thank you. Can you tell us, please, about Serbia's AI strategy and how long did it take to develop and implement it, and what was it based on?
So we did start developing new projects and policies regarding IT in Serbia since 2017. So that was like a kickoff for us to develop more, because IT industry was already rapidly developing in Serbia. So we introduced the coding in schools. We invested more into universities level education, especially in engineering departments and STEM departments. We also started constructing science and tech parks. But I think in 2019, we were thinking, okay, what's the next phase? Of course, we were still working a lot on different things regarding IT in general, but we were thinking we need to do something more specific in sense of, we are still a relatively small country. We need to do something where we can position ourselves as that we have competitive advantage ahead of others. So AI was the thing that we decided to do, mostly because we already had very well developed domestic teams in industry, and also already some universities had AI in their curricula. And we thought, especially because of the good STEM background in education that most of people have in our system, that AI is something that we can have where we can produce high quality engineers and also high quality research. And of course, we knew that is the technology of the future, as we can all especially see now. So that was something that we also did. We did analyze a lot of publicly available documents, did some analysis ourselves in sense what is the impact on the economy. Because honestly, we were mostly thinking, okay, there is a new chance in which Serbia can be ahead of others. So we want to take use, because maybe we were not so lucky in the last couple of decades to have use on when things were changing in the world regarding different industries. So maybe this industry we can do something new.
So how you think it could be or strategically or even tactically supported that the students will gain up-to-date knowledge that they can also use in their everyday professional life, probably?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think it's definitely difficult because of the I mean, even the procedure just to change the curricula, especially in K-12 education, is like at least year-long process, and even longer. And then when you make it, I mean, it's also especially difficult to change it all the time because it's something that needs to be standardized. But what we did for university level education, we have each year like a public call for subsidizing professors to develop new curricula. So we give them some funding so they can develop some new curricula. But I think it's always up to the professors to be on top of their game and to do so. I think what we have as a case in Serbia is that there are quite a few people who don't even who get jobs even before they graduate. I mean, they graduate eventually, but it's like it's very competitive market, and there are many people who go to internships and then they learn a lot about what company is doing. They get cutting edge knowledge there, and then they just decide to stay and work there. So, but I think recently we did invest into new projects and new programs because we think it's better for students to gain new knowledge. And the best way that we manage to do so is by developing new master courses. We call it like Master 4.0, but it's like a bit of a creative name. But it's we also did develop masters in AI in a similar way, in the way that we have a curricula that is developed in collaboration with the private sector. So what they have is they need to have at least some part of the curriculum needs to be taught by people from the private sector and also from companies, and also by professors who are from abroad, because we want to engage the diaspora as well. And they also have to have a mandatory internship, so they have to go to the companies. So that was like kind of a way for us to motivate universities as well to develop curricula, and all of them in Serbia did develop new masters in AI and in Masters 4.0. With Masters 4.0, it was also very important for us to connect students from tech faculties with people who have more of like soft skills and management skills. That was a part of the curricula as well, because that is something that we can see and that the industry says that we are missing off is people who have good like project management skills and that skill set, because we have very good technical skill sets, but I think we need more of like development of soft skills as well. So that is like kind of a way to engage them, and I think it is working quite well. But of course, it's still as everywhere, it's a very rigid system. But I think what we also did in elementary schools and high schools, we created this platform with NGO called PETA, like the Loop Foundation. They have created online material for students and professors, teachers in schools, where they can work on the similar curricula, but they always keep them up to date. So they always introduce new things, so they can see what are like the new compilers, what are the new environments in which they can work on. We introduced AI in curricula 2 years ago as well, so they can have at least some basic lessons even in elementary schools and high schools about AI. So I think we are trying to do as much as we can, but of course it's changing so quickly that I think it's sometimes even impossible to do so. What we also did is these training courses, like retraining for IT, which was mostly focused on people who didn't have any skills in IT, so who didn't go to school for IT. But we also organized this with schools that were working with the private sector, so they can get the knowledge that is good enough for them to get hired as junior coders for some of the companies, which was quite successful. Around 40% of people got jobs in IT afterwards. So that was quite good. But I think it's all about the engagement of the private sector. But then again, I think it's always, sometimes we cannot always like do whatever the companies want us to do, because, you always have to keep some level of curricula that it's good in general, because you never know what is the new technology going to be. So like maybe something is good now, but in 5 years it won't be. So we still need to keep up with that. So I don't know, does that answer the question? But I think it's more of it's a very structural question, so it's very difficult to answer it in a short way.
No, thank you very much. It is a nice overview, really, from your side. But it is, hard and interesting to be a pioneer in different fields. It doesn't matter. So developing AI strategy is also like pioneering right now. And especially for the countries. So question would be, so how do you view countries' approach towards AI legislation, especially in the world of research? So right now we touched upon the cooperation of universities and private sectors, and now the countries and research, I mean academia especially. So will the approach towards legislation be unified? Some good examples would be copied by other countries that are not right now implementing probably, or are in the process of implementation of AI strategy.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's it is still like a pioneer work in the sense that you don't really have a beaten path. So it's for us, when we adopted the AI strategy, we were, I think, 26 in the world to do so, and first in Southeast Europe. So there are like strategies that we can look up to. In meantime, I think probably tens or maybe even 100 countries now have a AI strategy. I think it's AI is a very good buzzword, so it's very good for countries to say they are working on AI in some way. But then when you get to the bottom of it, it's sometimes you end up with all these general terms. But I think it's very interesting. We had regarding legislation, we had a process that was year-long process of developing ethical guidelines. So we did participate in UNESCO development of their guidelines. We also are participating with Council of Europe in developing of their guidelines as well. But we wanted to have our own, and we have had this group that was developing it, that consisted of people from academia, from people who are from philosophy, ethics, just like pure social humanity, of course. So we also, from humanities, we also had people from engineering background, from AI professors as well, and of course from the private sector we had big tech companies, startups, but also we had watchdogs that are working on privacy policies and so on. So I think we had everyone. But it was interesting to see the different approaches, because when you talk with people, and I know with all this even international working bodies, they're mostly consisted of people who are not of engineering background.
Very interesting, like this thin line that you shouldn't cross between being ethical and restrictive. Like when you restrict everything that that no one can actually do anything new or create something new. So yeah, this is really difficult. So thank you, Stefan. And are there any pan-European strategies or coordinating activities that you can highlight, that you can tell us about?
Yeah, definitely. I think we are part of the working group of Council of Europe for ethical guidelines, and they're going quite well. I think by the end of the year, they're going to have their own ethical guidelines published. So it is important, I think, for us, especially as a country that is aiming to become a part of EU, to be up to date with all the EU regulation and other guidelines. And of course, from economical perspective, because the EU is our biggest trading partner, all the companies that are working on developing IT and AI in Serbia need to be compliant with that for their exports. I think that is the working group of Council of Europe is doing quite well. They have almost monthly meetings, and of course, it's sometimes difficult when you have many countries. You need to synchronize all the opinions, but I think it's going quite well. We are also part of the Global Partnership on AI, which is an organization that was established 2 years ago, and it is aiming to develop responsible AI. It is based on OECD guidelines as well, so we are compliant to that as well. And I think it is very important that you have also pan-European and also global alliances where you can have the same standards of developing the technology, because we really want to have enabling mechanisms when we have something that is fairly new. So we know that everybody else is respecting the same rules, that then we can be sure that what we are doing is okay, because if some other countries will not be on the same page, that would probably disturb a lot of the market as well, and also probably even the collaboration or competitiveness of our economies, because I think it's very important with all this, as some other rules that were developed in the last couple of decades or centuries regarding trade and everything else, for everyone to keep to the same standard and everybody to be compliant with the same standards, so then we can have like the fair game of development of the technology and applications of the technology. So I think these activities like OECD, GPAI, Council of Europe, and EU, of course, and UNESCO, they're all good because they are not only helping us to have the same level of standards, but also they're also very good mechanisms to exchange experiences.
Thank you very much, Stefan. It was really very interesting, and hopefully, as our podcast is still focused on researchers, they could find their place in this whole new world of AI. Hopefully. So thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. It was great.
As we have seen, artificial intelligence is being used across the world, from governments and large organizations to small online businesses. Researchers have the ability to explore, develop, and implement new forms of technology into their groundbreaking research. It is important to know all the possible opportunities available. Academia is not the only place to develop a researcher's career. It is the starting point for the future, with many paths. EURAXESS brings many possibilities together for you to explore and understand your opportunities for growth. The EURAXESS Smart Talks podcast is a tool for your career. Till next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of EURAXESS Smart Talks.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and can't wait to share more with you next time.
You can follow us and find more episodes on the EURAXESS portal or wherever you listen to podcasts.
This episode was prepared by audio engineer Pavle Drašković, outreach manager Darja Aksjonova, production manager Leah Nerenberg, editors Serbian and Miroslav Trajanović.
This episode is published under the Creative Commons CC BY license. Thanks for listening.